Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Learn how your organization can support WUSF by calling Scott Kaufman at 800-741-9090.
Tuesday marks 2 years since the attack by Hamas in Israel that ignited the war in Gaza. We speak with an Israeli-American rabbi about how that has changed her relationship with her Jewish identity. That's next time on The World.
Today at 3 on WUSF, your spot for local.
The rising cost of groceries is just another sign of inflation, and it's stressing out a lot of Americans. I'm Matthew Petty, and today on Florida Matters Live and Local, what have you seen in the grocery aisles that's made you pause before you toss it in your shopping cart? Or maybe you just kept walking. Has the cost of groceries made you change what you buy or how you shop? Call and join the conversation. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Or you can email us at FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. We'll also take a closer look at the tourism economy and how a drop-off in Canadian visitors to the Sunshine State is affecting Tampa Bay. Will Canadians staying away affect your business? Are you going to miss Canadian friends, or maybe you are Canadian? Call in and share your story. And are you a musician looking to stay in tune and practice? Tampa Community Band is here for you. All this and more on Florida Matters Live and Local.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Amy Held. This day 7 of a federal shutdown shows growing impacts. Tens of thousands of TSA and air traffic control employees are working without pay. NPR's Giles Snyder reports Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is warning of flight delays.
Secretary Duffy says controllers are already dealing with a persistent staffing shortage and outdated equipment. Now they're on track to miss their first paycheck.
Now what they think about as they're controlling our airspace is, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How do I make my car payment? I have a couple kids at home. How do I put food on the table?
Duffy met with controllers at Newark Liberty International Airport, saying some have begun calling in sick. The FAA says staffing issues are causing delays at airports, including Newark, Phoenix, and Denver. In California, controllers more than 100 miles away in San Diego handled air traffic at the Hollywood Burbank Airport Monday evening because there weren't enough controllers to staff the tower. Giles Snyder, NPR News.
As the shutdown enters its second week, WIC, which provides food assistance, said it could run out of money within a couple weeks. Trump is reiterating threats of mass layoffs and program cuts. The House is not in session. The Senate is, but so far, several votes on funding bills have failed to make headway. Attorney General Pam Bondi is defending herself against Democratic criticism she has overseen a weaponized Justice Department amid President Trump's use of the military on U.S. cities. Bondi is testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Despite the unprecedented degree of activism we've seen from the lower courts, we have never ignored a court order. And why would we? We have secured a historic 22 victories at the Supreme Court alone, with more to come.
A federal judge has set a Thursday hearing to rule on Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to Chicago. Another federal judge has blocked a troop deployment to Portland, Oregon. It's the second anniversary of the Hamas-led attacks on Israel and the subsequent war Israel launched against Gaza. NPR's Emily Fang has more from Israel.
In Israel, people say they have not moved on because 48 hostages remain in Gaza and the war continues, dividing Israeli society. At a commemoration event in the kibbutz near Oz, where 1/4 of its members were killed or abducted on October 7th, Daphne Albini says she is still grieving and angry. Her grandfather, the peace activist Haim Perry, died in captivity after Hamas kidnapped him. She says all this talk about taking over Hamas in Gaza and seizing control of territory, well, like my grandfather used to say, occupation kills. And now our soldiers are being killed in Gaza and our hostages are being killed. She says she wants the Israeli government to end the war through diplomacy. Emily Fang, NPR News, near Oz.
This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. The new owners of the Tampa Bay Rays want a new ballpark ready in time for opening day 2029. They're just not saying where. The group is led by principal owner Patrick Zalupski. He spoke just a few moments ago in Tampa. Zalupski said they are evaluating sites as part of a larger development of at least 100 acres in the Tampa Bay area. The ownership group spent about $1.7 billion for the Rays, as well as the Tampa Bay Rowdies soccer team. The owners said repairs on the Tropicana field remain on pace for hosting regular season games in 2026. A committee tasked with trimming Hillsborough County's spending is eyeing several areas. Hillsborough's DOGE committee, formed in response to an investigation into the county's finances by the state's new chief financial officer. An initial report said that Hillsborough misspent about $279 million since 2019. County officials say their staff had decreased during that time, and much of that spending was necessary to keep up with rapid population growth. Still, Jake Hoffman, chair of the Hillsborough DOGE Committee, questioned spending on programs like incentives for the film industry.
Most of these are going to people who don't live in Hillsborough County. The companies aren't in Hillsborough County. I don't even know if they film 10% of the in Hillsborough County. So I think we should be highly critical of these film subsidies.
A full state audit of the county should be ready in the coming weeks. A rainbow-colored crosswalk celebrating the contributions of Miami Beach's LGBTQ plus community has been removed from the city's Ocean Drive. Governor Ron DeSantis' administration ordered all street art removed statewide, and the city lost its appeal. State workers started ripping out the colorful pavers Sunday afternoon, and the intersection was covered in asphalt by Monday. Miami Beach Commissioner Alex Fernandez says that the city collected all the paving stones so they can be repurposed in the future. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
Brian, and I got you every weekday morning with the Bay Blend podcast from WUSF. It's quick, fun, and you'll discover something new every day. It's the Bay Blend, wherever you get your podcasts or at WUSF.org.
Bach Tower Gardens hosts Dreamweaver, Tales from the Trees. It's an all-new immersive art exhibition where the lines between nature and the mystical blur with fairies, sprites, and more. Details at bachtowergardens.org.
This is Florida Matters, live and local. I'm Matthew Petty. We're broadcasting from the doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studios at WSF in Tampa. When you do your weekly grocery shopping, how much attention are you paying to the price of things? My family eats a lot of bananas. They probably go through a couple of bunches a week at least. So when I notice the price of bananas sneaking up from 69 cents a pound to 79 cents a pound at my grocery store, that made me do a bit of a double take. And, bananas aren't the only staple that's gone up lately. The average cost of a pound of ground coffee in August was $8.87. A year earlier, that pound of coffee would have cost you about $6.30. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons for prices sneaking up. You've got inflation, tariffs, the weather, supply chains. Today, though, we want to focus on how it's affecting you. Now, for some insights, we're joined by Michael Kuhn, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Tampa. Michael, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
And with us, too, is Dr. Michael Snipes, the Instruction of Economics Professor at the University of South Florida's Sarasota Manatee campus. Dr. Snipes, thanks for stopping by again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, we want to know, to what grocery store item is giving you sticker shock, and how are you adjusting your weekly budget? Or maybe there are certain things you're deciding to go without, switching to generic brands, or perhaps just spending a little bit more time shopping around for bargains. You can call and tell us. We are at 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Now, a month or two back, we talked to a Tampa area mother of four, Taylor Grant, about how she shops for groceries.
Grocery bills are going up, so we have to decide if we're going to do meat heavy this week, fruits heavy, and, towards the end of the month, it gets really tight, so we're trying to make sure we can just survive during the week.
So I wanted to start with both of you and just kind of take it on a personal note for a moment. Do you have like a grocery store item sort of red alert thing? Is there something you look at and you're like, okay, if I know the prices of that is going up, we need to look at other things in the economy?
I think that when you look at the staples, food staples, so things like eggs, things like milk, the things that are really kind of ingredients that you can use in other things, those are the ones that I pay the most attention to. There was about a year ago, 6 months ago, there was all of that controversy and all of that dust up when we had egg prices going up. And you brought it up in kind of the introduction. That was largely due to, a disease in the poultry industry. So really what I do is I look at the staples because those are the goods that everybody uses. Everybody uses milk, everybody uses eggs. And so that's something that's going to affect everybody, less so than maybe a pound of coffee or something like that. So I tend to focus on when we're looking at the grocery store, kind of those core goods.
Yeah. What about you, Michael?
About the same. One of the things that I've been noticing lately is the price of beef. I'm a meat-heavy diet kind of person, so I look at that quite a bit.
Is it like burgers, steak? What are you shopping for?
Usually steak, but now more like burgers now, because the price of both of them have gone up quite substantially over the last year.
Yeah, and is it something that as an economist, do you take your economist hat off for a bit and you're just thinking about what's in your grocery cart, or are you thinking, okay, I know something's happening here, I'm going to go back and sort of crunch some numbers and see if I can build it into a bigger picture of the economy?
It's a combination of both. I look at a lot of these prices just for my regular job, comparing how they changed over time, and really as a microeconomist, I like to look at why they're changing over time. And so when I saw the price of beef spike up, I wanted to go back and dig in and say, why is it going up? Is it just inflation, or is it something else?
You can give us a call. We're at 813-755-6562, 813-755-6562. Send an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Is it beef? Is it eggs? Is it milk that you're paying attention to? Can you not get by without your daily cup of coffee? Maybe that's something that you're thinking about as you do your weekly grocery shop, or maybe bi-weekly, depending on how fast you get through that food. Meat can sometimes be a bit of a luxury, and the price of beef, as both of you mentioned, has been rising steadily since 2020. It's now about 50% more expensive than it was 5 years ago. I mean, that is something that's kind of complex, right? Because, you mentioned eggs and the poultry disease that was ravaging that industry. There are so many things that go into producing a crop like, a product like beef, right? It could be supply chain things. It could be something going on with the cattle. It's pretty complicated.
Yes, I mean, it could be everything from, immigration policy, right? We have to have workers in these jobs, and a lot of the time these are, immigrants coming from other places who are taking these jobs. And, if we have changes in immigration policy, that's something that can kind of further put another kink in the chain. So it's a very complicated process, and part of it is going to be just kind of natural inflation in the economy. But we have to look at the bigger picture. So we do have to look at supply chain issues. We do have to look at policy. And when we have those inflation rates and we have those price changes and those price increases in those core goods, again, that affects everybody equally.
Here's an email for us. I've switched up where I shop, can't afford Publix. Why are the prices so different at different stores? You can send us an email too if you want to weigh in. The email address is FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Michael, what about that? I mean, there is quite a bit of difference between, the way different groceries chains price their goods.
Yeah, well, what people need to understand is that it's not just the price of the food that's coming into the store that matters. Real estate is a huge part of any store's cost. So if they're in a more expensive neighborhood, they're going to have to charge a little bit more to offset those real estate costs, also labor costs. All of those things matter.
Yeah, I've noticed actually if you shop at some stores, they have maybe their hours aren't quite as long. Is that going to affect the cost of the goods as well? If they're not paying staff for as long, then they can maybe sort of pass on some of those savings to the consumer.
Yeah, if it's a neighborhood that gets pretty slow around 8 p.m. or something, and they have 15 workers in there and one customer, it would make sense for them to close a little bit earlier and save those labor costs. So that could definitely help. It just means you can't go to the store at night.
Yeah. I remember growing up, there always used to be sort of talk of like the price of milk. That was kind of like seen as the staple or the thing you can kind of measure other things in the economy by. Is there like a one good that you can always kind of keep tabs on, or maybe even I've heard, the sort of McDonald's indicator, like you look at the price of a cost of a hamburger, a quarter pounder or something, and see how that's fluctuated over time. But is it such a kind of complicated network of systems we are in the economy here that you can't just pick one good and say, okay, if that's going up or down, we can tell what's happening elsewhere.
Yeah, you can't really pick one particular good. I mean, there are certain economic measures that you can look at to try and get a feel for where things might be going. There's something called the Producer Price Index, and that's really kind of the closest thing that we have to try and predict where prices might be going.
Yeah.
And so to just kind of take a quick example with tariffs, if tariffs increase, then that's going to put an increase in cost on importers. That's going to put an increase in cost downstream. So when we look at things like that and how all of those things can filter through, it really is a complicated web of what can be influencing everything. So it's not really one particular good that we look at. But you brought up milk, and one thing that I have seen that I've noticed just in my own life is that the price of beverages in restaurants that seems to have gone up by a lot as well. Like the entrees tend to be about the same, but nobody really pays attention to how much you're paying for a soda. A soda used to be maybe $1.50. Now sometimes I'm paying $3.50 for a cup of coffee at my breakfast restaurant. And so I think that's where some firms are kind of picking up that slack and kind of saying, well, where can we kind of increase prices strategically without maybe our customers, for lack of a better term, maybe kind of noticing.
Yeah. I think customers are pretty savvy, though. Speaking of coffee, we've got a caller on the line. Debbie, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hi there. My name's Debbie, and I'm in St. Pete. I just had to call because there were a couple of comments about coffee. And, Matthew, you said that a pound of coffee is X dollars. You can't get a pound of coffee anymore. You get 10 ounces for the price of a pound.
Sure.
It's the phenomenon of shrinkage. And the other comment, your guest says, coffee's not important. I think coffee is probably one of the essential foods that
I'm right there with you, Debbie. I would not be able to get through 24 hours without at least one cup of coffee. I mean, have you changed what you buy? Have you sort of noticed that you're looking around for other deals on coffee, Debbie?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they have specials on coffee, but even the brands that used to be cheaper are still downsizing to 10 ounces.
Yeah.
And all the products actually have downsized, and that's been a study that's been going on. I just also comment fruits and vegetables, I think, as a result of the immigrant departures, have also gone up in cost.
Debbie, thank you so much for sharing some insights there. Really appreciate that call. We can sort of unpack a little bit of that, Michael Kuhn. So thinking about coffee, like you're talking about some things like the cost of labor, the weather plays a big part in that. Tariffs are going to be a big part of that too. Talk about some of the things that are affecting the price of a pound of coffee or 10 ounces of coffee, whatever it may be.
Yeah, for coffee, it's going to be a little bit less of a labor issue, except for in the stores themselves, because nearly all the coffee that we consume in the United States is produced abroad. I think Hawaii and Puerto Rico are the only places where we grow coffee in the United States. And so the increase in the price of coffee is largely due to the tariffs that have been levied. Brazil is one of the largest coffee producers in the world, and we just smacked a 50% tariff on them. And even if we start buying coffee from other countries besides Brazil, that's still going to increase the price from those countries as well, maybe not as much. But weather also plays a huge factor. The coffee industry has been seeing a deterioration in the amount of land that they have to grow their crops, and so the supply is going to be diminishing over the next several years. I just want to touch on what the caller said.
Actually, maybe just hold that thought, Michael. Okay. We're about to go to a break, but we'll get into more about coffee and some of the other things that our caller brought up. Talking about tariffs, inflation, the cost of groceries. You can weigh into what's the grocery store item that gives you heartburn when the price jumps. Is it coffee? Is it bananas, eggs, price of a steak perhaps? And how do you respond? Are you ditching some things in your shopping list or trying to shop a bit smarter? Call 813-755-6562. Send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Michael Coons and Michael Snipes. Stay with us. More to come on Florida Matters Live and Local in a moment.
ICE raids have been met with protests in many Democratic cities. The Trump administration is pushing to deploy the National Guard. We go to Portland, Chicago, and Memphis next time on Here and Now.
Beginning at 1 on WUSF.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from The Baby Boomers Barrister, an estate planning and elder law firm for baby boomers, their parents, and children, helping boomers and their kids control their property now and after they die, and assisting parents with long-term care planning and financing. BabyBoomersBarrister.com. The Orchid Show 2025, Rebecca Louise Law, opens at Selby Gardens at its Sarasota campus. This exhibition will immerse you in flowers and foliage. October 11th, presented by Better Grow. Details at selby.org.
The IRA charitable rollover is a great opportunity for older donors to make a tax-free rollover donation from your IRA to WUSF. To learn more, call Scott Nolan at 800-741-9090 or look for the support link at WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Is the price of groceries driving you bananas? Did the soaring cost of eggs last year make you scramble to find alternative places to shop or even different things to put in your grocery cart? If your grocery bill makes you anxious, you are in good company. More than half of Americans say the grocery prices are a major source of stress for them. We're still with Michael Kuhn, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Tampa, and Michael Snipes, Associate Professor of Instruction of Economics at the University of South Florida's Sarasota Manatee campus. And we want to hear from you. How are you managing your weekly grocery shopping expedition, and what are you thinking about prices? 813-755-6562 is the number to call. That's 813-755-6562. Here's what Tampa area mother of four Taylor Grant told us on Florida Matters back in the summer.
We're not getting as much, healthier foods. The salads and the fruit prices have gone up significantly. And then we're not able to get as much healthy meat, proteins and iron and stuff like that. So that's become a really big challenge over the past few years.
All right. So, Michael, before the break, you were talking about coffee prices, other issues sort of factoring into the price of groceries.
Yeah, that's right. And what I wanted to touch on from the caller's comment was that packaging is getting smaller. That's something economists call shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation.
So, yeah, when you see your costs going up, you have, as a producer, you have an option of either raising the price that you pass on to consumers or trying to keep the price somewhere around the same and giving them a slightly smaller package. And this is not new, but it seemed like it's somewhat accelerated over the last couple of years since inflation spiked back in 2022. And so you're seeing that in lots of industries. So you might have the bag of chips that you might buy might be the same size, but it has a lower weight inside the bag, and kind of hoping you won't notice that. Granola
bars, I've noticed, like you shake the box, it sounds very rattly. You take out one of these bars, it's got a package kind of about that long, and it's only half full. We got an email about that, actually. I feel like companies are trying to trick us with shrinking packages. I can't take a spreadsheet of prices and packages into the store with me. Do you have any cheats so I don't get cheated? Is that something that you think about, Michael Snipes?
Well, a lot of the time they do have the price listed. I think it's like dollars per ounce or something like that. So a lot of the time they do have the per ounce price.
You got to squint at that small print, though.
You do.
And you still need your clipboard to make comparisons from last month.
So, I mean, it's there, but again, like you said, I mean, most people aren't going to make that effort to kind of look at those smaller prices. So the information's there, but again, if the package is shrinking but only by a couple ounces, you're probably not going to notice that. So if the price stays the same but we're getting less, I mean, that price per ounce is going to change, but again, we're not really going to notice that. We're going to notice kind of the big, bold price, and that's what we're going to notice.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping, at least. Another email here from Tasha, who writes, "Hi, with the steady increase of groceries, I've ditched shopping at the large chain stores and have started shopping at local farmers markets and locally owned butchers. The quality of product has been better." Thanks for that email, Tasha. If you would like to send us an email, you can. It's FloridaMatters@WUSF.org, or give us a call, 813-755-6562. Michael, what about that? I mean, I wonder if that's kind of a trend that may pick up a little more. I know sometimes the price can fluctuate a bit at the smaller markets or the farmers markets.
Yeah, and I guess it depends on the market, but I would suspect that the prices might be a little bit higher because they don't have the scale of production. They need to produce things more cheaply. I know during the pandemic, a lot of people got backyard chickens to kind of raise their own eggs. But when you factor in the labor cost and the feed cost and everything else you have to do to actually get those eggs, it may not work out to be cheaper than what you buy in the store.
Yeah. Speaking of eggs, Michael, as we was talking about before, I mean, it was a huge headline last year. did that seem like a kind of a good indication of what was happening in the broader economy, or was it really just egg specific?
That particular example was kind of an aberration. It was more reflective of kind of things that were not economically driven, really driven more by the bird flu. Mm-hmm. But there are examples, over the past couple years, past couple months, we can look at something like baby formula and what happened with baby formula. It was, I think one company produced something like 80% of all the baby formula in the country. So if there's something that happens in that particular industry, we're losing, 60, 80% of the market. And again, that was something that was driven by something not necessarily economic driven. It was driven by kind of tainted formula that somehow got released.
Yeah, it came back to, I think, one factory, right?
Right. And so that's it does kind of speak to that, kind of trying to manage scale and be big enough to provide goods to the economy while kind of trying to maintain, food safety and affordability. And so there are a lot of interconnected issues here. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it can go towards policy. And so if we see relaxing of policy in, food protection, food safety, and we're slightly off topic here, but again, that's something that can influence prices. That if there is a shutdown because of some disease or biological reaction, and that occurs because there's now a more lax policy infrastructure that's out there, that's something that can lead to an outbreak, that can lead to a shortage, that can lead to price increases. And that's one thing that we're seeing a relaxing of a lot of regulations in the food industry. Mm-hmm. How exactly that can show up in food prices in the coming months remains to be seen. But we already are starting to see things like that, like we saw with baby formula, like we saw with eggs.
Right. So let me just put that number out there one more time. If you've got a call to make or a question or comment about grocery prices, let us know, 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Another email here. I still have PTSD over the toilet paper drought during the pandemic. What is the difference between panic buying and what we are seeing with inflation? Thoughts on that, Michael Kuhn?
Yeah, so panic buying is bad. I actually did an interview back during the toilet paper crisis for the Tampa Bay Times, and when people expect the price to be higher in the future for whatever reason that may be, if you go out and you rush and you start buying those things en masse, that actually drives the price up.
Is that kind of like the equivalent of when people buy gold when the economy is looking a little iffy?
Yeah, and it drives the price up, right? So it's what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy in economics, right? If you expect it to be higher in the future and people go out and buy today, it's going to be higher in the future because people are going and buying today. Now, that might work with things like toilet paper if you have a lot of places to store dry goods in your house, but it's not going to work as well with groceries because, things that are perishable. So you wouldn't really want to go out and panic buy those things. But at the same time, for some things, people are worried about inflation, and I know a lot of people are worried about tariffs, and they're wondering, like, should I buy a new car now, or should I wait and see if the tariffs go away? Or, and I guess this would hold true for some groceries at least. That can also impact the economy. It's not just the policy; it's how people react to the policies that have an influence in the economy as a whole.
One more comment here from Lisa, who writes, "I pay $6.99 for organic pasteurized eggs at Trader Joe's. They are $10.99 at Publix. I shop primarily at Trader Joe's and at Aldi because their prices are dramatically different, and I like their politics better." So a lot of factors go into the reason people shop at different stores. Thanks for your email, Lisa. We're going to have to leave the conversation there, but I want to thank you both. We've been speaking with Michael Kuhn, Associate Professor of Economics at the University of Tampa, and Michael Snipes, Associate Professor of Instruction of Economics at the University of South Florida's Sarasota Manatee campus. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Professor Snipes, stick around for a bit. We're going to chat with you about tourism, specifically Canadian tourism. Now, Canadians are staying away from Florida and what that means for the Tampa Bay businesses who rely on snowbirds to keep their cash registers ringing over the winter. If you've got some thoughts on that, give us a call, 813-755-6562. Send us an email, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. You're listening to Florida Matters, live and local. More to come in a moment.
On the next Fresh Air, escaping poverty, then going back home. Journalist Beth Macy went back to the Ohio factory town where she grew up to find that jobs have left. Families are struggling, and old friends now embrace conspiracy theories. Macy's new book is Paper Girl, a memoir of home and family in a fractured America. Join us.
Fresh Air can now be heard weeknights, Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock.
The Florida Orchestra welcomes violinist Benjamin Beilman for Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto, conducted by Michael Francis at the Mahaffey Theater and Ruth Eckerd Hall, with a Sunday matinee, October 18th and 19th. Details at floridaorchestra.org. Florida Southern College welcomes writer Bob Keeling to the Florida Lecture Series. His free talk, 70 Years of Elvis and Florida, 1955 to 2025, starts at 7 p.m. October 9th. Learn more at flsouthern.edu/flhistory.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Well, we'll be hearing a lot of the Canadian national anthem in the next few months. It's hockey season. The Tampa Bay Lightning kick off their season on Thursday against the Ottawa Senators. But it's not just Canadian hockey fans we see this time of year. It's nearly time for the annual influx of snowbirds, part-time residents of the Sunshine State. Almost 60,000 coming to Florida hail from Canada. But this year, the migration just isn't going to be the same. Strained relations between Canada and the United States is translating into fewer tourists and seasonal residents. Visit Florida says it's seeing a 20% drop in Canadian tourists from a year ago. President Trump's remarks about making the northern neighbour the 51st state and steep tariffs are turning Canadians off. And registration is now required for visitors wanting to stay in the United States more than 30 days. So are you concerned about the loss of these short-term visitors from the Great White North? Will it affect your business? How about missing Canadian friends who like to visit you over the winter? Or maybe you're Canadian and you want to weigh in as well. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. Send us an email to FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Michael Snipes is with us. He's an economist and professor at the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee. And we're joined by Tim Harper. He's a former staff columnist for the Toronto Star, a Blue Jays fan. Now, typically he'd be traveling to Dunedin for Jays spring training, but not this year. Tim, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Hi, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Now, how long have you been coming to Florida?
The condo that we have, that a friend of mine has in nearby Largo, was bought the year the Toronto Blue Jays became a major league club, 1977.
Oh, wow.
Not me personally, but the gang I'm with, and through generations, what we'd be in our 48th year if we come down, 49th year if we come down next winter. The only year that we missed was COVID.
Yeah. You decided to sort of give it a rest for political reasons. But just before we get into that, what's the atmosphere like during spring training? Because I have been to a game, I think it was called Auto Parts Stadium at one point, may have changed sponsorship now, but it does feel like a little slice of Canada right in the heart of Florida, right? So do Dunedin and other nearby towns have a Canadian feel to them to you?
They do during spring training, definitely. And, even when the Blue Jays underperform, and there's been lots of years of that, they didn't stop the influx, and it's now called TD Bank Stadium. Usually sold out, but it's going to be interesting this year because you're probably aware that the Toronto Blue Jays are creating a lot of excitement and energy in this country right now. They're leading; they could turf out the hated Yankees tonight in New York. So it'll be interesting to see whether this renewed energy and enthusiasm around the Blue Jays beats politics next. It's going to be an interesting experiment, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the phones. The number is 813-755-6562, 813-755-6562. If you would like to call in, give us an email too, or you can write to us, FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Vince, I think you're on the line. Vince, what are you thinking?
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. First of all, great selection of topics this afternoon. You guys are covering things pretty well. So, I'm pretty intimately involved with the restaurants in the along the West Coast, and I know that it's been a rough summer. Not just tariffs and cost of products, not just even immigration and labor issues. This area has been looking forward to the Canadian snowbirds coming down really since the end of the season in April or March of this year. So we're really looking forward to that. What was interesting is as a storm, as a hurricane crosses the Atlantic and it makes any news at all, it's reported that storm's going to curl, or that storm's going to head out to sea, that's good news for us. But then it's usually followed with, hey, but here's what it looked like just a year ago. And then the camera shots always to just the devastation that happened up and down the beaches. And that still is turning snowbirds away.
Right.
Even though the storms have been few and far between right now, knock on wood, it's always followed up with, hey, but here's how bad it did look just last year. And that's not going to encourage the snowbirds to head down.
Right, yes, a lot of different factors there. Thank you so much, Vince, for your call. Really appreciate that. What about that, Michael? It's not just politics. It's obviously kind of weather plays a factor in people's decision to come down or not.
Yeah, and there's also economic considerations. We don't have a state income tax in Florida, so that's going to be something that's going to attract people as well. Where we tend to be a slightly higher income area relative to the rest of the United States. So there's still a lot of reasons for people to come down here and move down here. Mm-hmm. But I do think it's interesting that we are seeing this drop of tourism coming from Canada, because I looked at some indicators as it relates to Canada. I looked at prices, our prices relative to Canada's, our exchange rates, things like that, some economic indicators that might influence tourism behavior. And a lot of those really have not changed very much. So I think that we're kind of spot on here, that really what's driving a lot of what we're seeing with changes in tourism coming from Canada is driven by other things, not necessarily economic decision making. It's it could be politics. It could be like the caller stated, it could be representation of storms or just the possibility of a bad storm coming.
Let's get another call in here while we can. Anna, I think you're on the line. What's on your mind?
Oh, okay. I do think it's great to have tourists because we need them in this area. And yes, it has dropped off. However, I want everybody to be optimistic. Right this moment, Carney is in the Oval Office and they're making a good deal. And yes, we're on the Trump train. You don't know what's going to happen. You might hate him right now, but you might love him next week. It's just insane sometimes. But you know what? All in all, a lot of things are working out, everybody. Don't just hate Trump. I think Canadians got to do that too.
Right.
Just take a look a second. I think we're going to even this out because they talked about some really realistic stuff today.
Yeah, Anna, can I just ask you, whereabouts in Tampa Bay are you calling from?
Sarasota.
And are you sort of seeing a bit of a drop off in tourists down there? Or what are you noticing?
Oh, a little bit, yes, a little bit. And listen, it's always been fun to talk to people. I mean, I've been in Canada and all, and I've been all over the world, but it's nice to talk to them and watch their amazement at the beach, and it's so warm, and they get in the water in January, and you're just watching in awe of these human walruses or whatever they are. It's fun. It's fun to see different people.
Yeah,
so I like that.
Anna,
I enjoy the tourists.
Yeah, Anna, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate that. Some good insights there from Sarasota. Appreciate that. Let me put that to you, Tim. First of all, Mark Carney, as our caller pointed out, he is in the White House at the moment. He's chatting with President Trump. What are you thinking as a Canadian? What could come out of that, and could that sort of help thaw relations a little bit between the two countries?
It could be a starting point. Your president's a little bit mercurial, to put it diplomatically, so one never knows what will come out of a meeting between the two leaders. You should know that when it comes to politics, Prime Minister Carney is now under increasing pressure to get something done with Donald Trump. He was elected on this WUSF campaign where he was going to take on Trump and get a trade deal. It hasn't happened. And so some of the blame inevitably will shift. But I just wanted to mention to your caller who said, you might hate Donald Trump today, but you might like him tomorrow. I don't think the majority of Canadians are going to be liking Donald Trump regardless. It's almost impossible to think that he would have lower approval ratings in this country. I don't think they poll that low.
Yeah.
So I mean, the anger is real, Matthew. It's not a passing fad, but it is hard to remain angry for long, and some of that will dissipate. It's just human nature.
Let me get an email in here if I could. This is Ron and Sigrid in Waterloo, Ontario, writing in. We've decided to boycott U.S. products where possible and unfortunately spending a couple of months each year in St. Petersburg. Your president's threats to make us the 51st state and to ruin our economy have made it easy for us to spend our money at home for the last few years. I do not want to be seemingly take the risk of being detained at the border for what might be on my phone. We know of many people here who think the same way we do. They go on to say we do miss Florida and our friends there very much. Thanks for your email, Ron and Sigrid, writing us from Waterloo. If you'd like to join them and share your thoughts on this issue too, whether you're deciding to stay away from Florida for the time being, or maybe you've got some Canadian friends and want to weigh in, we're at FloridaMatters at WUSF.org. You can give us a call too, 813-755-6562. Michael Snipes, what are you kind of thinking as you hear all this?
Yeah, so one thing that I think that a lot of people don't really realize is just how important a trade partner Canada is for the United States. When we hear about trade policy, we tend to hear a lot about China. We tend to hear about, the European Union, places like that. But when we look at total trade, which is just kind of the amount of goods that are crossing borders, either as an import or an export, so just total trade. When we look at that metric, Canada is our biggest trade partner, right? And followed pretty closely by Mexico. So when we're talking about how the Canadian economy can influence the American economy, well, again, they're our biggest trade partner. They're a lot more important than a country even like China. So I think that's something that we may need to keep in mind, that when we see these changes happening in just kind of the consumption patterns, if you will, of Canadians, that's something that could affect the United States in a fairly significant way, just because of how important Canada is as a trade partner.
813-755-6562 is the number if you want to get in on this conversation, talk about the impact of trade policies and politics on visitation to Florida. 813-755-6562. Tim, I mean, what about that? Is that sort of a conversation? It seems kind of high level, thinking about Canadians' relationship to Canada, to the United States as trade partners. Actually, just hold that thought for a moment. We do have another call coming in. Edward, you got a question for us, I believe. Edward, go for it.
Yes. I'd like to know what the result would be if there were no tariffs between Canada and the United States and no tariffs between the United States and Mexico. What would be the net result?
Okay, thanks for your call, Edward. Appreciate it. What about that, Michael?
All right, that's a fairly big question.
Yeah.
We would really kind of default to what we had before the tariffs. So before the tariffs were enacted, we were under a free trade agreement with most of the world, but more specifically with Canada and Mexico, with the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. And that was essentially a way for us to keep costs low when it came to trade. So if we were to get rid of the tariffs, we would go back to where we were under a free trade agreement with zero tariffs. And that is something that would potentially increase trade volume. It would affect the price of imported goods. So we would expect prices for imported goods to go down, probably to pre-tariff levels, because what we are seeing is we're seeing prices of imported goods going up, again, driven primarily by tariffs. So if we didn't have that additional cost, if we didn't have that additional tax on Americans, that's definitely something that would put a downward pressure on prices, more specifically imported prices.
Tim, just as we kind of close things out here, I mean, I know it's getting a bit cold up there in Canada right now. Are any of your friends reconsidering their decision to boycott Florida? I mean, it must seem pretty inviting in the winter months in Canada.
Yeah, except it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit here in Toronto today, so it hasn't really kicked in. We haven't had the discussion yet. It looks highly unlikely we'll do it. But to your Professor Snipes' point there about the free trade deal, timing is everything. And by next spring training, we may be in the middle of Donald Trump trying to blow up that trade agreement that protected so many Canadian goods and U.S. goods going across the border. And if that's the case, it's going to be another winter where Canadians aren't going to come down there, because that has been working beautifully for both countries, and Donald Trump signed it.
Yes, indeed. Lots to watch out for there. We've been speaking with Tim Harper, former staff columnist for the Toronto Star and a Blue Jays fan and sometimes snowbird. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Always great talking to you. Thank you.
And Michael Snipes, Associate Professor of Instruction of Economics at the University of South Florida's Sarasota Manatee campus. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, are you a musician looking to get back to playing, or are you looking for people to practice and perform with? You're going to hear from a pair of Tampa Community Band performers in just a moment. That's when Florida Matters Live and Local continues. Stay with us.
I'm Robin Young. Paul Hollywood, real name, has very strong opinions about baking.
I mean, the whole thing about a good chocolate cake is obviously the chocolate sponge itself. You want that moisture and you want that smell of chocolate.
The great British bake-off judge talks about cake, competition, and his new cookbook next time, Here and Now.
Coming up at 1 after Florida Matters Live and Local.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Caldwell Trust Company, an organization which has been navigating clients toward their financial goals since 1993, building wealth and preserving legacy, the way it's meant to be. Learn more at ctrust.com. Celebrate Pointer's 50th anniversary at the Bowtie Ball in downtown Tampa. Join Pointer to honor Jane Pauley, Dean Baquet, and Gary Trudeau on November 15th. Visit pointer.org/bowtieball for tickets and sponsorship information.
WUSF wants to help you handle hurricane season this year. Our newsroom will provide you the latest on air and at WUSF.org. Our engineers make sure our backup generators are ready to go. That means our team can provide you live updates, from bridges closing down to post-storm damage reports. Whether you listen on a battery-powered radio or visit our website after evacuating, know that WUSF is here, ready to serve.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Being in a band requires a lot of hard work and dedication, but the feeling you get from playing an instrument and being part of a team is so gratifying. Here in Tampa, the Tampa Community Band nurtures aspiring musicians and veteran performers. Here's what the band sounds like in rehearsal. We are joined by a couple of Tampa Community Band members now with us in studio. Alan Cheek and Jeanette Sung are with us. Alan is the Community Band's librarian. He plays the trombone and the tuba. Alan, thank you so much for coming by.
And thank you for having us. And just shared a secret about you, and I'd like to invite you to come join us because we could use another 3 or 4 clarinet players.
Oh, really?
In my
Yeah.
opinion.
You can never have enough clarinets, right? And Jeanette, you play the clarinet?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So let me ask you about sort of how you started playing, because you're both in your 70s, but you clearly love music and you've been playing for a long time. How did you start?
I started in elementary school and played through high school and got away from it for a while. And I had spent 4 years on active duty, 10 years bouncing between Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve units. And I got tired of some of the things going on with the Air Force Reserve, but I had too much time to throw away, shall we say. And so I talked to an Army Reserve recruiter, and he says, I even have an opening here for a euphoniumist, whatever that is. And I said, I know what it is. Can you arrange an audition? I borrowed a baritone horn, and I passed the audition, and it's been, shall we say, downhill ever since.
Just for folks who may not be familiar with it, what is a euphonium?
Euphonium, you probably would more familiar with the American baritone horn, which is sort of a cross between a euphonium and the British brass band baritone.
Okay, so but does it look like a trumpet? Like, give me the bare basics of it.
It looks like my license plate was for a while in North Carolina, a baby tuba.
A baby tuba?
Yes.
Okay, so you sort of hold it upright? And,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so Jeanette, you play the clarinet. You've actually got a clarinet here.
Yes, I
Yeah,
do.
how long have you been playing for?
Since I was 10 years old.
Okay,
in
wow.
elementary school.
Yeah. And it's what got you back into it? Because was there a bit of a time when you sort of put it aside for a bit? Like, how did you come to join this community band?
I played all through college at Syracuse University, and then about 10-year layoff, and some friends I knew said, come and join the Tampa Bay Buccaneer band.
Oh.
At that time, the football team had a band.
Like a marching band?
A band that played in the stands. So I did. And so that's I dusted the clarinet off and went back. And then from then, the football team decided they didn't need the band anymore, fired the band.
Oh.
And then I went to the community bands organization. So that's how I came to play the Tampa Community Band.
Would you mind playing something for us? Is that possible?
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah. Tell me about your clarinet, too. This is a beautiful looking instrument. It's like made of rosewood or something?
It's made out of cocobolo.
Oh, wow.
It's actually what they call a hybrid version. It's cocobolo wood on the outside and polymer resin on the inside.
Okay.
So it won't be prone to cracking.
Gotcha. That's useful for
clarinet.
Florida, right? Because the climate here is a bit unforgiving for woodwind instruments.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I'm just going to play a little thing.
Please, yeah. That's right. Take your time. You can scoot your chair back a little bit too if you want. Yeah, make yourself comfortable. While you're doing that, take your time. Nice. Is that a part of a tune that you're rehearsing? Is it?
It's something that I learned when I was back in junior high school as part of a solo I had to memorize.
Oh, wow.
Something stick with you forever.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Did it take a while for it to come back? Like, because you said you had like a 10-year layoff, I think you said. Like, how did you sort of have that muscle memory in your fingers?
It's still there, but it's slow because a lot with a clarinet, as they told us, you play clarinet. The fingerings, you kind of like, okay, we have to say, do we start with this pinky or that pinky? Because we have 4 keys on one side and 3 on the other. So depending on what you need, we have to plan it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing for me that I found tricky about the clarinet was they call it the embouchure. It's a French word. It means like basically muscle tone in your face. And that's something that you can appreciate too as a brass player, right? You've got to really have the tone to make the sound.
It's a combination of how you hold it and how you move the lips around.
Yeah.
As I was told, for lower notes, you blow towards the bottom of the mouthpiece. For higher notes, you blow towards the top of the mouthpiece. And, it's little things you pick up. And one of the things that you didn't touch on is how when you're away from it, you don't have an appreciation for listening to other people and listening and becoming part of a team.
So you're saying it's kind of like it's kind of a philosophy almost.
Yes, exactly. And one of the nice things about the community band is when I first joined the community band, I was helped by another member to learn how to play in tune and listen to other people. It had been a 10-year pause between the time I left Charlotte and moved back to Baltimore and then moved down here that I had not played with a group. I just played by myself, so I didn't know how to get in tune with others. And it's about teamwork.
Can you imagine your life without music?
No, sir, I cannot. It's just, it's funny. I have tinnitus and a couple other ear conditions, and the thing is, music has helped me learn how to cope with it very well. It's a gift, and it's a gift that I've been given, and a gift that I need to share.
Are people surprised when you tell them you're in a band?
Yeah, they're a little shocked sometimes. The apartment building I live in, when they see me hauling the tuba out to the car on Wednesday evenings, you play that?
Okay, so tell me about rehearsal, because brass is quite loud, right? It
can be, yes.
It's a very bold sort of sound. You need some space to practice. Where do you practice? Do you practice in your apartment?
I practice in the apartment, and I have a homemade practice mute that I made out of a basket that I found at Walmart and filled it up with foam, and then covered the foam with some duct tape.
And so this is like a thing you stick in the end of your trumpet to dull the sound.
Exactly. And for the trombone, I do have a store-bought practice mute, but I use the homemade one for the tuba, and it seems to work a little bit. It does alter the pitch a little bit, which takes me about 10 minutes or so to get used to when I get to the rehearsal where I don't have the mute in.
Yeah. Jeanette, what about you? Where do you rehearse?
I rehearse at my home. I just have a practice set up, in my bedroom with a music stand and just play.
Yeah. Do you sort of feel like you want to tell people about what you do? Like are you reaching out to other people to try and bring more people into the band?
We try. Anytime someone mentions I played an instrument in high school, and I say,
that's your opening?
No, it's like they say, oh, I play, I might say, well, I play clarinet, or I can't do this with you to such this time because I have a rehearsal. And they said, where do you play? What do you play? Mm-hmm. And then somebody will say, oh, I played clarinet, but I don't. I said, do you still have it? And they'll say, yes, I have it. Still have one in my closet. And I said, get it out. We welcome. It's never too late. There are always people who haven't played in 30 years or so and come back to it. It takes a little time, but they usually enjoy it. And the Tampa Community Band's quite welcoming to new people, especially, if you've laid off, and give them lots of encouragement.
Mm-hmm. What's the makeup of the band? Like, you've got a mix of older players, younger players. What does it look like?
I think mostly the age group's probably like 30, 40 and above. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of us that are retired now, and we just still keep playing as long as we can. And the younger ones, we try to encourage them. It's an opportunity for them to play after high school and college. Because, while they're in school, they're busy with their schoolwork. School bands are busy, and then they have a lot of things going on in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's usually after... when you get out in the work community, they're used to get busy starting their careers and their family. So then there comes a point when they say, I need an outlet, and then that's usually the time they're ripe to come in.
Okay, yeah, so there's a sort of sweet spot for recruiting new members. Alan, I know you're involved in kind of mentoring younger players, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, it's a matter I try to make sure that they have the right music, part of the librarian duties and everything. Mm-hmm. But, I think the big thing is, and I think this may be the reason why some of the younger members drop out, is every 3 weeks we go off to someplace different to play. Mm-hmm. We rotate between several of the senior living centers and put on a concert there. And it's a matter of not only are we learning how to work with each other, but we're giving something to the people that live in these centers. Even though they may be fairly upscale, a lot of people there don't get out and they don't get contact with the outside world, and we provide that contact.
Have you ever recruited a new member from one of these community centers you play at?
Yes. One of our trumpet players we recruited from a concert that we had at the JCC. Uh-huh. And he's sort of jumping in, and hopefully in the election that we're holding this week, or is it next week?
I think this week.
He will become the president as we incorporate. Mm-hmm. So, but most of the time, the people there just, they're there for the concert, and we're there to give something. In fact, it was kind of funny with another band that I was with one time. One of the saxophone players said something about, these people would have been happy if we played B-flat major scale variations. It's just a matter of getting out and mixing with the people and being there and showing them that we're here to do a little something.
I mean, even if you're playing a scale, as long as you're playing in tune, that can sound pretty good, right?
And not only that, we're providing something. Mm-hmm. And that's the nice thing I like about Tammy is she's starting to introduce different things. If you told me
this is your band director?
The new director. Mm-hmm. If you told me 6 weeks ago that I would enjoy playing a tune written by Ozzy Osbourne, I said, you're out of your mind. And not only did I enjoy playing this tune, I looked up the words to Crazy Train. I loved the words to it so much.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Look, that sounds fantastic. We're going to put some, I think, information about the band on our website, but we're going to have to leave the conversation there. We've been speaking with Alan Cheek and Jeanette Sung with the Tampa Community Band. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, coming up tomorrow on Florida Matters Live and Local, property taxes. Do you want a break on your taxes? Do you think you're getting your money's worth? You can call 813-755-6562, leave a message or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org, and tune in tomorrow at 12 noon. That's our show for today. Florida Matters Live and Local. Executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producer is Amelie Horace. Lily Belcher is our intern. Our engineers are Jackson Harb and Gio Garvin. Jackson composed our theme music, and Chandler Belcom handles the video. Subscribe to Florida Matters wherever you get your podcasts and watch on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
years ago, an attack by Hamas